What is the left's plan for America? Minneapolis is actually defunding police. New York City is moving money away from the NYPD. Social distancing was all about control. New York Times op-ed chief resigns. And also a Churchill statue defaced by people who think they are fighting fascism. That and more coming up. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here. Let's get right to it, shall we? Because I just have some things I have to get off my chest right off the bat here, right at the start. What are we seeing right now in this country? Because to anybody who has maintained any sense of sanity, to anyone who has any real understanding of how the world works, of ethics, of morality, of society, of decency, of truth, if you have kept those things where they should be, if you have not abandoned them entirely, you are looking at what is happening right now in this country and saying, what the heck is all of this about? And at a certain level, what you are seeing is simply the following. It is the widespread delusion and mass cowardice that has spread all across the country colliding, right? The cowardice of, oh, the left is coming for us and maybe we can buy them off. Maybe we can convince them that we're good people. And the delusion on the left that there is a massive and systematic campaign of police violence against black people in this country. That is a lie. Start from that. It's a lie. The same way that the origins of the Black Lives Matter movement on Mike Brown as an innocent victim is a lie. We have facts, we have evidence, but they ignore that. They ignore that. And this forces us to confront a reality that I think a lot of us are uncomfortable understanding. And I'm going to get into the defunding of police forces that people are not just talking about. They're doing it now in some places. They're doing it here in New York City. Oh, they're calling it a reorientation of priorities and funding the community. They're defunding the police. These psychos are taking the craziest slogans that are currently being spewed by these protests that make no sense and trying to institute them. And what do we have in this country? So many people in the media who are just cheering this on. Oh, that's right. This is going to help us achieve justice. This is exactly what we need right now. That is nuts. But you also see what's really happening through these, not just with the protests, but the narrative creation that's going on in the country. What's happening is a confluence, the coming together of two very important moments, two very important things right now. One is we have been put through an experiment that is perfect for the creation of mass hysteria, and we failed. The COVID experiment that we've just been through showed that if the media says enough that you should be terrified, a majority of the American people will just cede all their rights, everything is fine, I'm going to listen to the experts, and won't even hold them accountable with rage once the swindle has been exposed, as it now has. Yes, COVID-19 is a real disease that killed a lot of people, primarily the elderly and those with serious health conditions pre-existing before COVID came along. Was it necessary to shut down all of society? New York Times is now publishing pieces from experts saying, you know, we probably should have been taken a more targeted approach. Oh, you don't say. Really? You mean that shutting down the entire economy like a bunch of tyrants and telling us to stay home, wear a mask, don't see anyone wasn't brilliant epidemiologists coming together with a solution that was absolutely necessary? You mean it was a panic response that was exploited? Yes. Yes, it was. And we'll return to this in just a little bit on the show today because I'm not letting this go. I haven't gotten my apology letter in the mail yet from the libs. I haven't had the people that were telling me that I was being reckless weeks ago, months ago, by saying we should My position on this was clear. We should be going to work as of the 15 days to slow the spread. That was it. That was to let us reset and get ready for the disease. After that, we should have been going back. We should have been engaging in life. In life. People that say, oh, it's just about a haircut are morons. We're never going to get these months back, and we didn't get anything really in the bargain. That's the biggest problem. And it set us on this path for turnkey totalitarianism. That's what it has done. And now we're seeing this right now. There's a reason the left feels so emboldened. Because as far as they're concerned, government action that dictates every part of your life, and I'll get into all the police, anti-cop stuff and the craziness, but I wanted to start here at the big picture view today. What the left has seen is that it is not difficult, it is entirely feasible for the government to seize control of every aspect of your life, to tell you you can't leave your home, you can't go to your business, you can't see your loved ones, you can't go to a funeral, you can't get married, you can't go to a doctor unless you're basically going to die unless you do. Wasn't hard for them to create this. Wasn't hard for them to get to this point. Didn't take very long, did it? Do you think that the left now sees this and figures, well, that was a one-off? No, of course not. They've seen that Americans' love of freedom is unfortunately a minority position now. A minority of the American people care enough about freedom to do something about what has happened in this country. Now, fortunately, there are still tens of millions of us who care about individual freedom, the Constitution, and basic dignity and human rights, because all of this has been cast aside, right? We had cops arresting people for going to playgrounds with their own children because of what the politicians and the media said. And now the same politicians and the media are telling us that cops can't arrest lunatics running around throwing bricks through windows because social justice or because systemic racism. So what you have here is, and just walk through the steps, the establishment of America as ready for government total control. It's not a position that everyone shares, but enough. It wasn't hard to scare over 51% of the American people into their homes, was it? And also to tell us that we had no choice. Where are the big protests? Tea Party movement, where are you? How about a return? How about that? Now, I know we don't have Trump out on the stump. We don't have the mobilization. This is all a left-wing mobilization, this Black Lives Matter stuff. They've done this before. Nothing came of it that was good. Didn't save minority communities. Didn't save anybody. In fact, people have a right to protest, yes, and I do support that right, and it feels a bit like unnecessary throat clearing to have to say it all the time. But I also have a right to say that their movement isn't going to make anything better for anyone, and so far has only made things worse for everyone. Worse. That's all it's done. It's damaging. It's destructive. It's hateful. It's spiteful. It's not about having a conversation. It's not about reforming anything. You've got to be kidding me. Where is that happening? Defund police is reform? You know, people who... It's amazing to do how many individuals who are a part of these protests and these movements never really stop and think, what does it mean to be a cop? What are you really dealing with every day? And law enforcement officers, yes, they put themselves at risk, they put themselves on the line, but they're also asked, to anyone that you, if you really know somebody who is in law enforcement, they are asked to, yes, protect old ladies from being bludgeoned and assaulted and God knows what on their way home every night. Yeah, they do that, thank God. But they also have to step in and be a servant of the public for so much of the societal dysfunction that's out there. They're called into domestic disputes. They're called into, neighbors who are getting too heated with each other and somebody might pull a weapon. I mean, they're dealing with that stuff all the time. And millions of police and public contacts. And the cops are lowering the temperatures. The cops are making sure that husband knows, you put your hands on that wife, we're going to lock you up. Time to cool down, buddy. I mean, the cops are stepping in all across the country doing this. I've got a cop in my family. I worked with the NYPD. If you actually know these people, they're us. They're just us. They are the community. They live in the areas that they are policing, or they're from the regions. You know, if you're going to be NYPD, you got to be in the New York area. And yet, it's just amazing how quickly this narrative we've gone from cheering for first responders, including cops, to demonizing cops and being told that we don't need them anymore. The only thing that could do this is a mass mobilization of the left, the Democrat Party, and say it. These are Democrats. These are Democrats who are destroying cities. These are Democrats who are calling cops racist murderers. These are Democrats who want to disband police departments. There are no Trump supporters involved. This is not bipartisan. When I say the left, I mean to be more inclusive. But understand this, Democrats are on the left. They are a part of this. They are behind this. They are this. And so what really is the goal? Because you'd have to ask, how could anyone be so crazy? What is the goal? Well, today there's all these polls that are circulating showing that Biden here, this CNN poll shows Biden up 14 points over Trump. Drudge Report today, which I don't know when Drudge went never Trump, but it's a sad thing to see it happening. Drudge Report today has that Trump has the lowest approval, or rather the approval was at Jimmy Carter levels, 38%. This is the plan. I just told you, I mean, that's the goal. Everything else that we're talking about and getting into the minutia of details with police and policing and communities and all this stuff, it's all a distraction. It's about the mobilization and the destruction of different aspects, the mobilization of the left and the destruction of peace, order, prosperity, create a perception that things are going badly in this country. It's about power. And in that sense, the left is successful right now. What happens if they don't mobilize in this way? What happens if they're not taking to the streets, shutting down cities, burning down neighborhoods? You know what people will be looking at right now? Wow. First of all, we were lied to largely by the left, by the elites, by politicians about the intelligence of their counter-COVID measures and also the lethality of this virus, which is if you're under 50, you are being absurd, unless you have some special medical condition, to worry day in and day out about contracting COVID in terms of the risk to your own health. If you're over 70, it's a substantial risk. But remember, if the people around you are taking basic precautions, and if you are able to get more resources to the people who really need it, who are at higher risk, that's a much more effective strategy than just telling everyone to lock themselves at home, which is what we did. But it's all working out the way the left wants it to. And you have to remember, they're not geniuses, right? There's not some incredible plan that's so intricate and everything else. No, it's channel the rage in the anti-Trump era of people who have been locked away for months. And some of them, I'm sure, most of them believing that they needed to do this. And they don't want to blame the people, their own side. They don't want to blame, CNN anchors and Democrat Party officials who were saying, stay home, that's the responsible thing to do. So all that rage, all that psychological duress, which is widespread across the nation right now. We have run a mental health experiment, the likes of which nobody ever could have imagined, and the damage done to our collective mental health is massive. And they're taking all that rage and anger and frustration and I mean psychological instability, and channeling it into the most destructive and divisive causes possible, because the rest of the country looking on at this just wants anything but this. Anything but this. And that's how you get to Trump's sinking approval ratings and Joe Biden, a confused, inept buffoon who will be a puppet of the Democrat left if he wins the election. That's how you get him with a lead over Trump. And that is the point. That's what all of this is about. The same way that they created this whole mythology of Russia collusion, all a lie. There was no Russia collusion. How many times did you hear that talked about in the media? It was all a fantasy. But it was to create the perception of Donald Trump as a traitor, And if he's a traitor, it doesn't matter how prosperous the country is. It doesn't matter that we're not expanding wars in the Middle East, invading countries we don't need to. Sorry, neocons. Doesn't matter. He's a traitor, you see. And that gave this psychological safe space, you could call it, for the left to hate Trump beyond any boundaries of reason or evidence. It gave them that refuge of disdain. That's where they would go. Oh, look at Russia collusion. Trump is Putin's puppet. I was coming on this show, and you know this, telling you the country is doing incredibly well. Enjoy this. It's amazing. I know other hosts are always running around yelling, it's terrible, I hate it. You know, they're always yelling something about how bad this is or how terrible that is. Yeah, we have fights, we have challenges. But I'm out there telling you that things were actually going incredibly well under Trump. And that's why they had to create this lie of Russia collusion. Because otherwise people might start to see with their own lying eyes that the country's great. And that Obama was terrible for the economy. And that Obama wasn't the leader that the left pretended he was. But now they have a real crisis. And what are they doing? They're just trying to twist the knife in America's back. Just make this even more difficult to come out of. We got hit with COVID. It was a terrible situation made so much worse by the policy decisions. And the psycho left has been all locked up and they don't know what to do with themselves. And you got the virtue signaling libs trying to, rabble rouse on the streets now. And all of it is what? Meant to make sure that perception is this country is falling apart because of Donald Trump. And because Donald Trump is so bad at this job, we must replace him, even with a complete imbecile like Joe Biden. Just get that 1 or 2% of the voters to switch and give Biden a shot. Anything is better than this. They will destroy America as much as they can, as long as it means that whatever's left of America is in their hands starting in January of 2021. That's all this is. Make no mistake about it.
I'm a leader of this FTP movement. It means a lot of things. It can mean free the people. It can mean for the people. It could also mean fire to property. And that's very possible. Tonight I'm leading a demonstration from Barclays Center at 6 p.m. to City Hall. And that's the first stop. And we're hoping de Blasio and Cuomo come out and talk to us and give the youth some direction. But if they don't, the next stop is the Diamond District. And gasoline, thanks to Trump, is awfully cheap.
Oh, here's a protest leader in New York, in case you missed it, telling everybody on national TV, he's not hiding it, that de Blasio and New York City better do what we say, or else we're going to go and burn down some Jewish-owned businesses in Midtown. A little bit of casual anti-Semitism just thrown in the conversation here by this guy. And a threat. An actual threat of violence. But remember, mostly peaceful protests. Mostly peaceful protests. Our media deserves your disdain for the disgrace that they are, but also what they're willing to do to this country in propping up this movement that is full of psychopaths. Team, what is our mantra during this crisis? Never, ever bend the knee. I've been consistent on this one for days and days. I'm not going to stop. I thought maybe that in some circumstances, if someone felt morally compelled to show solidarity with the protesters, it would stop them from throwing things. I wouldn't judge them if it would prevent violence in a certain circumstance. But nope, never bend the knee. This is where now we recognize beyond any doubt what's going on here. And it's a gesture of submission. And it's about self-debasement. And the Democrats, of course, are doing this because they'll do anything. The Democrats, Pelosi and Schumer, they're all bowing and bending knee, anything they have to do right now, because this has become this Black Lives Matter anti-racism movement has become a religious movement. And it's a religious movement for people, many of whom look upon religion with contempt. So this fills that very important part of one's life that usually you think of with religious purpose or relationship with God or spirituality. It is now with this. The same way that climate change has transitioned into a religious belief. It is a religious belief. People keep saying it's not, but you look at it and you go, no, it is. It is. provide them with evidence that something they don't believe isn't true, they don't say, wow, that's really interesting because this is about science and about fact. They go, how dare you? Are the oil companies buying you off? Oh, no, but some oil money sounds nice, actually. Now people are running all over the place, demanding that others bend the knee. Here is, for example, we have Roger Goodell, who has now said that, protesting, bend the knee. We're back on this NFL players bending the knee thing. I got to tell you, I mean, NBA, NFL, these leagues, a lot of very spoiled multi-millionaires running around there. I don't really care that much about professional sports thing. I was thinking that it was a way to bond America back, but I'm starting to go back on that one a little bit because I don't think I can handle some of these folks, their positions, and using the position they have as a celebrity, incredibly wealthy individual to jam their ignorant politics down the throats of the American people. I mean, a lot of the people we're talking about here don't really know very much. Okay, it's just the truth. A lot of athletes, a lot of Hollywood celebrities just don't really know very much. But they're really good at one thing, and then we're supposed to listen to them about some of the most complicated questions in civic and political life? No, that's when they step into my world, because I do this all the time. And I actually know what I'm talking about, whether people agree with me or not. I don't run around spewing ignorance and saying, no, but I can, throw a football really far, or I can, whatever, all these other things that these athletes do. Anyway, Roger Goodell of the NFL is saying, oh, we were so sorry, we're wrong, because now everyone's just scrambling for cover, desperate to avoid getting crushed by the mob. Play 4.
First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black lives matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family.
I mean, what is this? What is he even saying? What's the point of this? Well, because now now the activism, if you were annoyed before about, remember, kneeling, they do it specifically during the respect shown to the flag because they know that will upset people. They know that will upset those of us who think that it is meant to be a show of solemn support for the patriots who have fought and died for this country and continue to wear the uniform, and also for the underlying bonds that all Americans have through that flag. They do something during that to disrespect that sensibility, and then they pretend like, oh, we're not showing disrespect. We just have a voice on something else. No, I'm sorry. No. It's not gonna work. Not on my watch. I'm not going to agree. They can say whatever they want. People can make all these different claims. They can say that Black men are being hunted systematically by the police. That is a lie. And it will never change. They could mob my building and burn me out and the whole thing. It wouldn't change what I've said. It is true. Doesn't matter if they deplatform me, if they come after me on social media. What I am saying is true. What this movement is claiming on some of the most important issues is false. Doesn't matter what they think about it. It doesn't matter how it makes them feel to hear the truth. But you see, that's supposed to be a casualty of this whole process. Truth is supposed to be part of what is under assault here, and it is. It is. And then there's once you eliminate truth, then anything is possible, right? Whatever someone feels like saying about something must be treated the same way, whether someone else comes along and agrees with it or not. This is where we are. This is the situation in which we find ourselves. So that then brings me to this. Oh my. That then brings me to, should you ever kneel? Should you ever kneel? Here is a law enforcement officer. And this, I think, shows you the whole spectrum of what is really happening here and what the mindset is. It starts with, come on, just kneel. Just take a knee to show us that, you're cool and you support our cause. And it's not a big deal. Why won't you take a knee? Come on, just take the knee. And then when you say, nah, I'm not going to kneel in front of you, because that's an act of submission. You kneel before God. You kneel before your king, right? You go through history. Kneeling is not something you do in front. Do you see your buddy and take a knee in front of him? Say, hey, great to see you. No. If you were offered a job and the boss said, so excited to have you on board, Bob. We're going to have a great time here. Really wonderful benefits and salary for you. But I want you to stand in front of me and just take a knee for a minute and look up at me. What do you say? Just take a knee for me. Wouldn't you think, what a psycho? Well, that's the most bizarre thing ever. Well, now, law enforcement keeps getting told, oh, no, take a knee. It's all fine. No, don't worry about it. But when they don't do it, what are you, some kind of racist? Why won't you do what we say? It's always the implied threat. Do what I say or else. It's not do what I say because it's moral. They're not trying to bring you over to the call. They just want you to show that act of subservience. Show that you can be pushed. And then they've got you. Drew Brees speaking of the NFL, Drew Brees' wife has released an apology now. Over the weekend, she said, we are the problem. She says she realizes we are the problem. Well, now she's kind of the problem because this is ridiculous. Can we have Drew Brees apologize for, centuries of systemic racism? I think he needs to apologize 10 times. I don't think 3 is enough. I think 10. And I think he should have to, just like in Game of Thrones, he can do like a walk with people throwing tomatoes at him totally naked through the town square, right? Maybe then he'll show how sorry he is for saying something that was eloquent, well stated, and in which he was completely correct. But that's being correct and speaking the truth is no defense anymore. The mob is outraged all the time. The mob is seeking not converts, but heretics. They want to find people who are heretics to their religious belief, and they want to destroy them. And that then brings me to this officer who I think somewhat bravely under the circumstances, given that he's on camera, and now I'm sure he'll be hounded on social media, and people will yell at him, and is told that this is how the progression moves from, hey, would you bend the knee, to everyone shouting at you, you better bend the knee. Don't ever forget this. Play clip 2.
Can we pray? Can we pray? How about that? Can we take a knee and pray? You guys can kneel. I'm not just, this is the church. This is the church. I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you right now. I'll pray for you. Appreciate that. Hey, everyone, take a knee. Take a knee. Everybody take a knee. Take a knee. Take a knee. Take a knee.
Is there an opportunity to show us your faith? Take a knee. 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 Take a knee.
Hey, would you take a knee? Would you pray with us? No, you won't do that? You won't take a knee on camera in front of us? Then the mob starts chanting, and that officer walked away and didn't do it. Right now, understand this. We are all in different ways being asked to take a knee. We're being told to agree with things that are lies. We're being told to forego our rights. We're being told that our safety isn't something that we're allowed to be concerned about. Everything right now is up for debate according to the left. And this is where this Defund Police movement comes in. What could be a crazier, dumber public policy idea than this? It's very challenging to come up with one. This kicks at the very load-bearing walls of civilization itself. You have no police force. How can you have law and order unless the state has a monopoly on force? This takes you all the way back to the origins of the nation state or of the state, period. How can you have a government if the government's only asking people to do things, if the government does not take it upon itself to enforce the law? There's always in the background the promise that if you don't do what the state says, and this is the social contract, this is the basis of how nation states can function. If you don't do what the law says, there will be punishment, and that punishment will eventually be people with weapons coming to force you to answer for what you have done or what you haven't done. That's how this works. But right now, we're told, oh no, there's an easier way, there's a better way. And it's insane, but it also goes to show you what the real project is, which is to isolate people that still see the world with clarity, to delegitimize people that still think that facts and truth matter, and to just incite the mob for the political purposes of the left so that they can seize power. Think of what has gone on here in the Trump era, and think about what they have been willing to do up to this point to try to stop him. The absurd impeachment, the Russia collusion farce, special counsel, people at the top of the law enforcement apparatus, all the different media just pretending that they don't have to be journalists anymore. They're something else. They're anti-Trumpism. That's what they are. They've already gone all in against this president in every way that they can. They've just seized the moment now with COVID and now with these riots to push even further. It's not about making anyone safer. It's not about making the world a better place. It's about being in charge of whatever world is left when they're done. So this is what happened up in Minneapolis, where all of this started because of George Floyd and the officer Chauvin, who knelt on his neck. And Minneapolis, you might have seen video over the weekend. It looks like a demilitarized zone between two warring entities now. There's whole areas burned out, destroyed, shattered glass windows. A lot of those are minority-owned businesses, by the way. Ever going to come back? No. People say, oh, they have insurance. The insurance companies will fight over every penny. It doesn't cover everything. And who would want to open up a business again? You want to wait for the next riot, the next looting to come through? Remember, the standard here is you got 9 black people a year unarmed, killed by police. We're almost at zero, as it is. I mean, that's pretty, in a country 320 million, that's pretty close to zero. If it's 5 next year, well, there'll be, the next time there's one caught on video and it's a really bad incident, as this was, they're going to burn down another neighborhood? We went through this in St. Louis with the origins of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? We went through this, and Black Lives Matter just started as a hashtag. It was left-wing activists looking for something to call left-wing activism, which is why if you go on the Black Lives Matter website, there's stuff about respecting trans rights, and there's stuff about social justice and socialism. And I mean, it's really, a lot of it is just repackaged Marxism with all this racially divisive rhetoric and language thrown in, or perhaps that's the vanguard of it. That's at the forefront of it. But here's what happened up in Minneapolis when Mayor Jacob Frey, who I've got to tell you, this guy was at the George Floyd Memorial, which, of course, lots of people gathered together. Forget about COVID. Doesn't count anymore. I will never listen to those public health frauds again. Where's Dr. Fauci? If you don't do the mitigation at the protest, social distance, 6 feet between it, you're basically killing millions of grandmas. Where is he on this? He was, they were trotting him out front of us day in, day out. I'm sorry. You got to ruin your economy. You got to go crazy indoors. We don't have any science to back this up. No one's ever done this before, but it's the only answer. Get me my Presidential Medal of Freedom while you're at it, please. Thank you. Really? Anyway. Mayor Frey is at the casket of George Floyd, bawling his eyes out. Now, look, it's a sad thing this man died. We're also, we're going to start talking more and more about his background. Interesting that he's become a martyr for this movement, given what has come out about George Floyd previously. It doesn't mean that he's allowed to have someone kneel on his neck and kill him. Far from it. That officer should face the full punishment of the law. But to build a political movement around him is a different thing. That's something that's going to be more fraught than I think many on the left realize. But Mayor Frey, who is this young guy who clearly he looks like to me like the twin brother of that other total milquetoast nincompoop lefty, the Prime Minister of Trudeau of Canada. I know, I like when he sounds like, he doesn't sound like this at all, which is disappointing. Wouldn't he be, if he actually wore a beret and was like, I am Justin Trudeau, I am the best male feminist of all time, no? But also I have a little bit of a troubled past, so when the photos come out and my Quebecois accent, is not enough of a distraction. Yeah, I'm sad that he sounds kind of like he sounds like everybody. He's like, "Hi, I'm the Prime Minister of Canada," because I've created this version of him in my head. Anyway, Trudeau and Frey, very, very similar in so many ways. Their politics are the same. They even look, I think, a little bit alike. Frey is at the casket crying his eyes out. I mean, really, man, you're gonna pull that? But, oh, look at the Democrat senators, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Oh, all this solidarity, kneeling, bowing, all this stuff. This is their left-wing religious mobilization. That's what this is. Remember, it's not actually a religion, but it is filling the place of religion in people's lives right now because they can't go to church because it's so dangerous.